Hi guys, I'm Caitlin McFarland, co-founder of ATX Television Festival, now ATX TV from the couch. I hope you joined us last weekend and enjoyed all the TV programming. If you missed it, we'll be releasing panels and standalone videos and podcasts over the next few months, so be sure to subscribe to all the things: YouTube, newsletter, social media, podcasts. But it's not over. We're going to keep these conversations and series going all summer, and tonight we have quiz. This Saturday is the third and final installment, and we've got Sarah Rodman here from EW to talk about it with a stellar and amazing, talented group of people that have made some of your favorite TV shows already. So this is just the next one of many. Sarah, can you come on?
Hello, Caitlin.
Hello. I'm going to let you take it away, but we're so excited. Have fun.
Thank you so much. So hello, all ATX Festers. I cannot tell you how much I am missing you this year. I come every year, and even though we all need to be home right now, I'm glad that we can all still be together. So thank you for joining us today. We are so happy to have this group of people with us today from the AMC series Quiz, which is about the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire scandal. And so joining our virtual panel today, we have writer-producer James Graham.
Hello,
James.
Hi.
We have the stars Matthew Macfadyen. Hello, Matthew.
Hello.
We also have Sian Clifford. Hello, Sian. And we also have Michael Sheen.
Hello.
Hello. And right behind Michael, we have Aisling Bea.
Just behind him. Here I am.
Just behind him and still dressed. We all have clothes on. So congratulations to all of us for being fully clothed at this time that we really don't need to be. So thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully everybody that's watching has watched the first 2 episodes so far. I cannot tell you, I've told Matthew this previously, I am obsessed with this series. I have now started reading the book. I am then going to read the play. It is so wonderful. I enjoyed it so much. So I'm so excited you guys are here today. James, I want to start with you about why you decided to write a play, since this is based on your work.
Yeah, so why did I do it? It was actually such a long time ago, the play. I mean, essentially, the story was enough. Just the story in and of itself, of these very ordinary people who go on this extraordinary journey. Basically, I thought of it as like a very, very English heist movies. You guys in America do pretty good heist movies with car chases and gun and shoot 'em outs. But this was a heist movie with very dweeby English people in reference books and encyclopedias to try and steal £1 million. And I just thought that was such an exciting and unusual story. And then I also just think the themes of it, the themes about, which I think would resonate hopefully today with a modern audience, even though this story is 18, 20 years old, are questions about truth and post-truth. And this is a quiz show. Everyone, of course, remembers Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. There's right answers and there are wrong answers, and that feels like a very old-fashioned concept sometimes that feels vaguely under threat. So I thought, as an examination of truth and what we can ever really know, this might be sort of quite a populist, fun vessel in which to explore that.
I think it's so interesting that you sort of are referring it to as a heist movie because, and I want to ask all of you this, basically, they were convicted, but do any of you believe they were guilty? That they actually did this? Aisling is shaking her head now.
I'm a truther. Yeah.
Is that what it is like in England? You're a truther
as well. Shan, do you feel the same as me? Am I right in thinking, Shan?
There is no answer to that question. It's the impossible question. I think that's what makes the show so compelling, is that we raise so many questions, but we don't necessarily give you answers. And certainly we get to see a different side to this story than we've ever seen before. So that's I think it's impossible to know. I think there's a much more important question, which is whether or not, a moral question as to whether they should have a criminal conviction. Mm-hmm. And that's much more important to me, certainly.
Mm.
And all the way through, I would say, all the way through filming, Sian and I especially, and most of us would flip-flop between are they guilty, are they not, all the time. And then eventually it sort of dribbled away that need to know. And then it was sort of more interesting what they, their relationship and how they were coping and, So yeah, so I'm agnostic.
I suppose the way James structured not just the play, but also the screenplay for the series, it sort of plays with that, doesn't it, James? The idea that the audience might be changing their minds as things go along as well.
Yeah, exactly that. And in fact, in the stage play, we did, you can't possibly put an audience in a theatre for a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire play and not ask the audience. So of course we had to do that. And they very much played along with the game. But I think Michael's right. What you're also trying to explore is this theme, I guess, of manipulation. We're telling a story about how vulnerable any of us are to the media, or certainly now social media, distorting the frame through which we see the world. But of course, we, in and of ourselves, our own drama is, of course, an act of manipulation, and we sort of try and declare that up front. And I agree with Sian. I think, of course, everyone's going to have an opinion about whether they did it or they didn't do it. And in truth, only 3 people in the world know it's part of this conspiracy, whether they did it or whether they did it quite in that way, or to what extent they got a bit of help here and there. But it's really, I think I think just to walk in through the footsteps of these characters as they become national and international figures of fun and are humiliated and their lives are destroyed, I think that's probably as valid an exploration as anything else.
It was interesting it coming out during the lockdown when all sport was cancelled, where there was nothing live happening that was connecting anyone other than really boring, terrible government sort of chats to the people of Britain, to have this one thing coming out every night and to sort of know what happened because you're in it, and to have people going, of course they did it, after episode 1, they were very unfairly treated, this is the voice of my mother, and then by like the 3rd one being like, innocent, sure, listen, we've all had coughs, look at the world now, everyone has had a bad cough, and to see the same thing come up, and to have, it was also quite nice to be part of something which divided people but wasn't Brexit or wasn't sort of grim. It was just this story from a sort of time pre-Twitter and pre all of that stuff that sort of felt really homely and familiar at a time where we sort of knew where everything stood. But it really divided Britain, the way Twitter lit up, and like, I mean, it's testament to Graham's writing, or James's writing, but it was so, like, it got watched by so many people in Britain, and everyone is engaging in the conversation around it again. So I think there's that phrase, there's an out as queer as folk. And people are like, God, were they just weird? Because you can't explain weirdness, which is my opinion.
It's so interesting too. I was going to bring up, I mean, it feels so timely, even though the story is 20 years old, and this idea that we have now of cancel culture, right? Of like, you do one wrong thing, and in this case, if they did it, it's a pretty significant wrong thing, but in the grand scheme of things, cosmically, like cheating a game show, it's not exactly a war, you know? That people just pile on. And my understanding was at the time, people really piled on, and that this was maybe not the beginning of this concept, because the British press is sort of famously mean, right? So this was of a piece with how they normally are, but it feels very timely in terms of the way that we deal with people on Twitter and Instagram now. And do you guys, just as actors, as public people, ever think, oh God, I need to be really careful because I'm one bad viral video away from, you know, everybody saying that, you know, Michael Sheen is over?
I have so many lawyers on top of my own scandals. I'm so lawyered up. Every penny I get goes into my lawyers. So I kind of hope that they're doing their job well, personally. Anyways, I don't know. Everyone else feels.
It's very smart. But do you worry about putting a foot wrong in the world that we're living in now?
I think you just have to be, you know, try and be compassionate towards others. And I think if you're too, I don't know, I think we need to be kinder to one another about, you know, there can't be progress unless we're allowed to make mistakes, is what I think. I'm very grateful to be living in a time when there is so much dialogue around things that we've needed a dialogue around for so long. Yeah, I would sort of hope that there's a way that we can come through this without the sort of braying pack of mob mentality. And I think it's important that that's why this story is another reason why it's so sort of pertinent now. You know,
You're right about. I mean, people. I think actors do worry, unless you have to promote things and do press and all the rest of it. But you can't. You know, most of the time you try and make the interviews as mashed potato as possible because you're endlessly misquoted, or you're just so. It always comes back. You can't do anything without somebody misconstruing it or jumping on you, or So if
I
you
mentioned
mind
on the
about
podcast that I'd been gifted a load of potato chips recently, the same day I had a tooth out, and the Irish press reported it as Aisling Bea reveals she feasted on 100 packets of potato crisps to deal with her toothache. I revealed it, and you're just like,
Yeah.
Okay.
At a certain point, you just gotta let that stuff go. Feasted though. I like it.
I did feast. I was genuinely, when it came out, now I see the funny side, but when it came out, I was so embarrassed because I just thought people just thought I was there, and there was just some stupid thing I said in the podcast. Sometimes people, slow news day in Ireland, clearly.
And oddly, it would be a weird way to cure a toothache by eating crunchy food.
Well, their whole point was that almost like I was Donald Trump trying to promote hydrochlorine or whatever the thing is. That I was like, hey, if you've got a problem, you can't go to the dentist. Have you tried 100 packets of crisps on your tooth? Sort of like I was some kind of crazy witch.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You are all playing, each one of you, real people. And I know for Matthew and Sean, you ended up meeting the Ingrams right on the last day of shooting. How was that experience after you had gone through this, playing these people? So sympathetically, I would add. Like, you were both I fell in love with you guys and felt so badly for you. So I'm curious what it was like to meet them.
It was lovely. It was quite nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
But it was really pleasant. Yeah, it was odd, but they were really sweet and full of energy and warmth, but it was very brief, wasn't it? It was sort of
it was like
2 minutes,
Yeah, a tiny moment, and I think it was more sort of fascinating for them to be on the set and to get to sort of experience that, and it was odd for us because their faces were so familiar to us, and they sort of knew who we were, but it was sweet and it was surprising just because I think, James has done such a beautiful job of capturing something of their essence in our script. So we were able to really, really lean on that. I mean, James, you really did all the hard work for us. And so meeting them and seeing that sort of, I don't know, radiate out of them was really, really wonderful.
And were they concerned at all? Like, did they, even in that short time where they're like, I hope you did this or I hope you did that, in terms of the way you were portraying them?
Not at all. They were they were fans of Fleabag and Succession, and they were thrilled we were playing them. They were honestly, they were so sweet. And I imagine it's not, easy for them, this story coming up again, even though, finally their side of the story is getting heard. But it was very lovely.
And I think it's an interesting, I don't think there's a standard way to deal with how you treat real life people when you're putting them on screen. But I certainly just have a general philosophy or principle that I think being in touch with people as early as possible, trying to explain the sincerity behind your endeavor, and just try and take them with you, and it could be in constant touch. So I was always on emails, I was always on phones for them if they needed. They came to see the play, which was a very strange experience because that's the intensity of a live theatre audience when everyone's pretending to watch the play, but they're just looking at you. And meet the cast afterwards, take questions, be in touch. And also, it's not just about being nice. I mean, we also have a job to do, and we have to balance it out, and we have to manage expectations that there will be bits, there will be memories of this that you don't like, and people's interpretation of something that you did that you will be frustrated to be aired in public again. But don't worry. The other thing we will do is for an international audience for the first time, we will try and platform your defence so that you can be heard as well. And I think that that balance is hard to achieve, but I'm glad it feels like we came close to achieving it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so different to my attitude towards playing real people. I don't want to go anywhere near them. I stay away from them for as long as possible because maybe, I don't know how you feel about this, James, but I just don't want to feel compromised in what I'm doing. Yeah. If you have a relationship with the actual people, I mean, I'm hoping that I take a responsibility in the way I do it, regardless of whether I have a personal relationship with them or not. But if I do have a relationship with that person, then I worry that will be just in the back of my head all the time and maybe censoring me from making certain choices or whatever. I don't know. Was that an issue for you at all?
Yeah, I think that's yeah. Totally don't blame you for that at all. I think that's completely valid. But I guess because our jobs are so different, I have to meet them up front in order to actually be able to write the thing in the first place with research.
Legally, you had to meet them to sort of okay them letting their story go.
No, it wasn't a legal thing because actually because they were convicted, it's public domain, and anyone has a right to take that story. It was a creative thing. I think the story was better by meeting them and hearing their side of things, and then you have to make sure you meet people on the opposite side of the argument. So the producers who absolutely maintain their guilt. So creatively, just to get scene ideas, character ideas, voice ideas, that felt important. But you're right, Michael. It's I think the only thing you can do is just however you do it is to manage expectations from the beginning and just sort of keep saying look a lot. Like, look, look, but if you want to come on set, then but look, it's and yeah, it's possible, but it's difficult. I feel the same though. I have this huge. It's awful when it goes out. They're sat at home watching it, and it's their life, and I'm just some dickhead playwright who's playing with pawns, and it's they went through such a lot, and but people seem to.
But you did do, like, you reignited the conversation, and I'm such a small part in it, so I was like watching it almost like an audience member, and then also had so many people, as I'm sure everyone did, having people call me so in favor of them. And the humanizing element. So it did, like, I think when like their case has been bolstered, and they've been fighting that case for 20 years now, and their case has been bolstered by the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to ask you, Aisling, specifically because you are probably playing the least famous person as part of this, but the woman that you're playing.
I would also like to say that I'm also the least famous person in it. Thank you very much. Very happy to be here. Hello, everybody.
But the person you're playing is a remarkable, formidable woman who has introduced some of our most popular reality formats across the world, like started in England. I mean, I don't know if there's ever been a movie made about her life, but there should be, because of the profound deafness and all of this.
Played very badly, I have to say.
But I'm curious, did you meet with her? Did you meet with Claudia? What was your research like?
No, I didn't. My process was, I would like to call it the absolute opposite to Sian Clifford's, who is a professional, who's an absolute professional. Sian went deep, and I didn't. I think Stephen Frear's process, I'm not sure what it was like for you guys at the sort of top tier of the characters, but for a lot of us doing like the kind of parts, he didn't really audition us. He had a chat with us and maybe got our energy. So Stephen, I was like, Stephen, do you want me to do English? And I had like my accent coach and everything trained up. He's like, I like Irish people. So I was like, well, I'm being Irish. And then I found out she was deaf, and I'm like, she had a profound little deafness. And I was a bit like, I think we've done too many scenes now for me to work that back in. So so it felt like a bit of a, I was like, I'm just going to stick, and I speak loudly anyway, so I don't know. But she is, I've actually a lot of friends in common with her, because she's been in TV, and I do a lot of sort of entertainment TV as well. And she's been in TV for 30 odd years, Love Island, a lot of the like very entertainment heavy shows over here.
Kitchen, Pop Idol. Yeah. Get me out of here.
And interestingly, a lot of like, I don't know her, but a lot of the ones that have turned people from having nothing into millionaires, no matter what type of show they've been, or completely destroyed people and destroyed a lot of people's lives. With shows like Love Island, with a lot of those shows, I mean, people's lives have been sort of pulled apart with the huge exposure. So it's quite an interesting thing to be part of, a sort of culture that puts people from nowhere. I mean, a lot of us sort of get ready for it in a sense, or know it's coming, even though it's weird. But for a lot of those people, they go from completely different jobs into being the most talked about thing in culture. And I think the people are still working out the responsibility with that now. And I don't think it's come a lot farther than from where it was with Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
So James, I think this is the plan. The sequel to Quiz is Claudia's story. let's just like keep telling this story, and then Aisling, you keep working. So if that happens, I just want a teeny tiny producer credit. So Michael, for you, going off your last answer, does that mean that you didn't meet Chris Tarrant? Because I was wondering if you might not have just known him through the course of bumping into him over the years.
No, I'd never met him before. He's been a figure in popular culture since I was a little kid. He used to do a very popular Saturday morning kids TV show called Tiz Was, which I used to watch when I was a kid. So I've sort of been aware of him all my life, but I'd never actually met him before. And then, strangely, once we'd finished filming, I bumped into him at an event, and I was sort of doing an interview or something, and I heard this voice behind me going, "Looks nothing like me." And I turned around, and there was Chris Tarrant, who was very lovely. He was very nice. But it was kind of interesting because he made it very clear, because he got interviewed a lot about the show in the build up to it coming on and that kind of stuff. And he was very clear how he felt about the guilt or otherwise of the Ingrams. He was like, well, I hope they're not going to do anything stupid, like pretend that they were innocent or something. Like, he was very, very clear about how he felt about it, which is interesting because one of the things that struck me the most when we were filming was when we went on the set. So there was this perfect recreation of the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire set. And it was thrilling to walk on there, because all of us had done, watched these episodes so much, and the research is like etched into your brain. And then it's like walking into the episode, weirdly, when you walk onto that set. It's brilliant. But what was remarkable for me was that I've been sort of thinking about this. It was like the most detailed, perfect crime scene reconstruction you could possibly have, because I was sitting in the seat that Chris Tarrant was sitting in, with the exact same relation to Charles in front of me, Tequin, the guy who supposedly did the coughing, in the sort of fastest finger seats, and then Diana up in the audience. So I knew exactly how close everyone was, and when he was coughing, I knew that I would be able, I could hear it, I could see him. Charles had his back to Tequin. I'm looking straight at him. So I think of anyone, I'm the only person who's ever been able to know what it must have been like on the night. And of course, Chris Tarrant was immersed in the show, whereas I could look around and see what it was like. So it was like being the perfect crime scene reconstruction for me.
That's so funny, and I like that you're like, Chris Tarrant was like in the show, but even though I was acting, I was not really paying attention and listening. We know a little bit about your process now, Joan. But that smile and that voice, and I've read so much from people saying that you just got him just right. And I guess his son came out and said that you did a really great job. And when you guys were sitting across from him, Sean and Matthew, did you ever sort of forget for an instance that it was Michael or not Chris Tarrant across from you?
Completely.
Oh, yeah.
Completely, yeah. You sort of forget what you think, oh, well, I forgot what Chris Tarrant looked like, because you're just gazing, and he's right. But the weird, I said this previously, I used to wake up, I had my alarm clock set to Capital Radio in the 90s. So Chris Tarrant's voice would wake me up every morning to go to drama college. And so when Michael did his first scene in the courtroom, I think, it was a real joy to hear that, because he's got a very distinctive voice. And he was everywhere for years, on TV and on the radio, especially. He was a DJ. So, yeah.
And he really does smile like that. I looked at those pictures and I was like, Michael Sheen, like, he gets it down, man. It's really good. But James, I wanted to ask you about one of the things that really struck me about this, and I think probably did for you all, was this web of people, and that this was a true thing, this network of people that like were building these machines and like doing phone trees back because there was not so much internet access. Like, this is a true thing, right? This background story of all the people that allegedly helped them, these pirates, basically.
Yeah, it's so true, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. For me, it's almost one of the most joyous parts of the show. Sorry, the bit that not all of you guys that aren't in, that's my favorite bit. I didn't mean that. Yes, they're called they're a real life people called we call them the syndicate. They actually called themselves the consortium, and there was many competing real life organizations, but they were extraordinary. Their entire objective was to get good people who were good at quizzes into the chair by hacking the system and then taking a cut of that. prize money, and they were remarkably successful. And they had a proper business. They had premises, they had offices, they had expenditures, incomings and outgoings. They were extraordinary. And they, as we actually reveal in the show, we discovered this. It's kind of joyful actually, because I really love when you're writing a story about a real life event. The actual telling of that story starts to reveal more about the story. So we introduced Paul Smith, the creator of the show, If He Wants to Be a Millionaire. He saw the play, got massively reignited in his imagination about this shadowy group of quiz obsessives who broke into his show and took money. So he went on his own. Absolutely, we didn't encourage him. He went on his own private investigation where he went to try and find them, and he may have gently connected him to some of those people, because we met some of those when they came to watch the play. So we have a scene which I won't ruin in the final episode, where Paul Smith, the creator of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, meets the head of the syndicate, whose job was to bring Who Wants to Be a Millionaire down and take all the money with it. And they have this reconciliation where where Paul discovers, and we, the audience, discover quite how successful they were. But they took millions. They took absolutely millions, and they got hundreds of people into that chair by gaming the phone lines and training these clients. Every phone a friend went into this secret room in London where it was full of the best quizzes in the country. So apart from that being just damn fun, I also think somewhere in there is hopefully an interesting conversation about obsession and just what and why Who Wants to Be a Millionaire took so many posh middle class people by, they got fixated by it. But I also just think it slightly speaks to, I don't know if any of you guys feel this, I feel like I'm only ever really a couple of steps away from being really weird. And I try not to be, and I keep checking in. But I think we are all capable of sort of falling down a rabbit hole and being that person people start to
Totally
street from.
Yeah.
I don't feel that I'm sort of a legend, but for many of you, I can imagine this being a problem.
Got it.
I don't even think it's a few steps. At this point, I think we're one step away from giving into whatever our weird obsession.
Lockdown.
That there was an equal and opposite sense of pathos. I'm forgetting the gentleman's name now. I want to say his last name is Bonner. That's playing Mr.
Mark Bonner.
Mark Bonner.
Oh, sorry, yes.
This sense of effrontery that he has, that these people have done this thing, which it seems is not actually strictly illegal, but is against the spirit of gamesmanship, and how sort of upset he is about that. And it seems like the sort of perfect polar opposite to them being obsessive about doing the game and him being obsessive about protecting the integrity of the game. Like, it's such what a lovely story to sort of be handed to you in a sense.
Yeah, no, and also sort of flesh out, like you sort of go, I guess it was a version where we didn't even include them, but we just felt like it was so they were so eccentric. And I suppose even though we do have a great deal of fun with them, because they're larger than life characters who are ripe for some big performances and big presentations. I also, as I hope we do with everybody, and when you have actors like this, they do it for you. But I sort of have a great deal of affection for them as well. It's easy to laugh at people. Anybody who has a hobby is sort of easy to laugh at. But I think inherent in this is just people who really like something. One of my favorite lines. Sorry, that's arrogant. One of the favorite lines that I wrote.
Confidence in your own work.
Yeah. They're all good, but this one in particular. Sean says in episode 3, which is we just liked something for a bit.
Oh yeah, that was gorgeous.
You do it so gorgeously, Sean, and it's just remembering that.
Stop it.
They're big. Well, but these guys' biggest crime is that they just love something a bit too much.
Right.
A bit carried away.
Yeah.
It was when you were talking about weirdos, I remember we were, myself, Mark Bonner and Richard Cooper, who play like the ITV execs and stuff, we were all up in the sort of docks in the court. And I remember when Matthew, and it was the first time I'd seen Matthew doing his character, and you were doing your testimony about being like, why would you do that? Why would you be so weird when you're talking about being a weirdo? And Matthew's, I can't remember the exact line, but it was along the lines of well, we just thought it'd be entertaining. And you're like, oh yeah, like what people, like we're all actors and we try and do what we think, people will be entertained by. But the idea of someone who's not an actor coming on and trying to be, interesting. We've all done it on dates or whatever weird interviews you're in or whatever. And the idea that someone would do that was so human in a sort of, for want of a better word, pathetic way, that it was like, oh God, there with the grace of God go any of us.
Yes, yeah.
Trying to make an effort to appear a certain way. And for me, that's why I don't think they did it, because I'm like, I think people were just trying something, and most of us would actually be like that, you know.
I'm 100% with you, but that's one of the things that shocked me in such a delighted way about this, that there is this real drama. I mean, this thing ruined these people's lives, whether they did it or not. But at the same time, there's laugh out loud funny stuff in this that probably didn't feel laugh out loud funny at the time. And so for the actors, and for you too, James, in writing this, how do you amplify sort of the inherent comedy of a situation without going too broad, while keeping it human, but still making it funny?
You just have to play the truth, you know. And to be honest, it's all there in James's script. And so I think if you just play that, you know, and Matthew's talking about this, you know, you play it straight down the line, and it just will be funny, because humans are inherently eccentrically funny.
I think what Shannon and Matthew do so well, though, you both play serious so incredibly funny. In Fleabag and Succession, that intensity is so hilarious to watch as well, though. It's like, particularly both of you.
But even like one of my favorite bits in the show is something that like they completely transformed in the editing, which is something that Matthew and I improvised when I'm training him, and I'm pointing at the TV, and I'm saying, so who's that? And Matthew says, Mr. Blobby. Now we were obviously looking at a blank TV screen, so in the edit room they just had the time of their lives messing around with that and popping in. So that was just the most delightful thing to watch back, and it actually makes us look great, because we had no idea what they were going to put in there, and it's so fun.
One of the things that really struck me when I watched it when it came out was because it's interesting. You said, Sarah, right at the beginning of this tonight, that you felt so sympathetic towards the Ingrams, you know, and that you sort of fell in love with them, and to be able to find them funny, and what Aisling was saying about, you know, just your heart breaks for them at times. But what really struck me was the ambiguity. You know, and that's a testament to James's writing, to Stephen's directing, and the performances of Matthew and Sian as well. To be able to play characters where, because you said, Sian, you just play it straight down the line, but you don't play it straight down the line. We never know what's actually happened. Yeah. And to be able to play the main characters of a show, which is essentially, you know, did they or didn't they? And we never get the answer, and yet we still sympathize with them. That's a remarkable achievement, I think. And like I say, I think that's everyone working together. That's the performances, the direction, particularly, and James's writing. But that really struck me, because you'd think that would alienate an audience or be unsatisfying in some way. But it's so satisfying to watch. And yet we never get satisfied with the answer. I mean, that's what we end on.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, we got to play around with that, and we did do various takes, not on every single scene, but where we would ramp up, you know, certain things. But what's funny, like there's something that where we were told, Matthew and I were told, to absolutely play something guilty, and it's ended up in the show, but actually in the broader context of everything,
it doesn't really register.
No. Does it?
Can we know what it is, or is it not?
Can you say?
I think we shouldn't say.
Don't say it.
Oh, but see, this is not satisfying. You know now, you teased us. Was it something where the direction was given to play guilty that was actually related to being guilty of this, or being guilty of something in the broader sense of the scene that you were playing?
It was the whole thing, actually, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was the whole thing.
But that's an interesting question, because if you are going in, did you have a firm idea as actors, though, whether they did it or not? Because from a motivational standpoint, right, isn't it sort of helpful for you to know that they are guilty or not guilty?
I don't think so, because you're just playing little increments. You're just playing moment by moment, really. You can't play a wash of guilt or innocence, I don't think.
And also, like, it's amazing how much an audience will do on your behalf, you know, and project their own stuff. So, and certainly, you know, when we were doing a lot of the studio stuff, we had to go back and reshoot it because we needed to, you know, generate more of a feeling of drama and this feeling of a heist taking place. And so we did have to go back and sort of reshoot a lot of that to try and capture that. And I remember at the time thinking, oh God, yeah, we are going to we're going to set up the narrative as people know it in this kind of act 2, the second episode. And so it was kind of fun to go down that route, but then you're also, there is so much being done for you for free by an audience, because again, within the context of the show, things read completely differently. And
I remember, actually, it's interesting you say that about the game show moments, and I agree, but the hardest thing to write, to maintain that ambiguity Michael's speaking about, was the scenes set at home, the private moments in episode 3. And it was, I just remember going, writing interior, the Ingram's house, day, and then I just went, well, if they did it, they're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went, well, then what are they going to talk about? Or if they didn't do it, they're going to say, this is really annoying. We didn't do this thing. And then you go, oh my God. And you'll see the scene.
People don't do that, do they? No one, what I loved about the show and the way you wrote it is you do think, what is it to cheat? Is it to work really hard and be cleverer than most people? Is that their crime? Is the crime to go, oh, between the 3 of us, we did know the answer. So we did, and there's nothing in the rules saying 3 people together can't be very clever, or as a team you can't work. So, you know, everyone constantly makes their own version of what guilt is. You don't go, oh, today we're going to sit down as such a pair of criminals on the couch. A right pair of criminals we are. You know, you're always justifying your actions to the people around you.
Good criminal dialogue there. I really liked it. But it was, no, you're right. You could be right. And actually, I don't know if this is what it felt like, Matthew and Sean, but the realization that even in the guilty version, even if they did do it, they can still feel such a sense of injustice, that they're oppressed outside their house, that they didn't really cheat, they just improved their chances, that the producers are thieves anyway for taking people's money, and then so you can have that sense of injustice, which looks like innocence, but may in fact be something else.
I really do wish there had been a scene where they were like, oh, we really love doing them crimes, don't we?
I mean, James, I'm looking forward to our collaboration.
Another
day in Crime Town. I didn't know about crimes in my crime life.
I don't know. I'd watch that. I'm just saying. But because all of you are playing real people, I have to ask, who do you want to play you in the movie of your life? Has anybody ever said, you look just like so-and-so and they should play you in a movie? Or who's your ideal person? Michael, I feel like we should start with you since you've played so many people.
I think Simon Pegg, Andy Serkis, Martin Freeman, or we're going to do like that Bob Dylan film where lots of people play the same person, and I'll get all of them to play me.
Michael's got a dog account of like dogs that look like Michael Sheen. And there's like, I would pay, and I think in this pandemic, we need something gentle to see a variety of dogs from Britain play Michael. Like I would, that would be more.
I feel like American dogs should be able to get in on this. If all the British actors are going to play American parts, I feel like American dogs.
Actually, it's simple as just like who's the best. It's actually a union issue.
But so, Aisling, who is playing you in the movie of your life?
I would like to submit a self-tape for myself. I feel like Sharon Horgan could play young me.
Ooh, I like that. And Sharon Horgan's going to love that you said young her. Matthew, who is playing you in the movie of your life? Or the TV series?
Michael Sheen.
I feel like, Sean, you could say the same thing, but don't feel pressured to say Michael Sheen. Who is playing you in the movie of your life?
Maybe one of
Yay!
There's a gimme. James, who's playing you in the movie of your life?
No one wants to see a movie about a playwright, but there's an American. There's an American actor called Justin Long. I don't know if you've seen it. I think
Yes.
He's
Yes.
He's a young kid in dodgeball who keeps getting hit in the face with the ball, and I think that's me.
Yeah.
He dated Drew Barrymore, so he's doing great. Justin Long's
I'm not.
Oh my God, that's great casting.
Thank you very much.
It really is very good casting. So now, do you have people coming up to you on the street, since it's aired in the UK already, sort of seizing you and telling you that they feel one way or another about this, like they did it or they didn't do it?
You do know, you heard about this pandemic.
No one's leaving the house, so I was allowed to touch us or speak to us ever again.
If they see us, we're literally dead, I think is unfortunately what will happen.
I'm warning you, in the future, this is what's going to happen. People will be seizing you on the street, telling you whether they believe in their innocence or guilt. But before this time, when you got stopped on the street, just out of curiosity, since you've all done a variety of things, was it always for the same thing when people were like, oh my God, Michael Sheen, I loved you in? It probably wasn't always the same thing, right?
I've not noticed a lot of crossover between the Twilight audience and the Frost Nixon audience. So I have a Venn diagram of my career. And there's that sweet spot, the teenage girls who are really into 70s American politics. That's
They exist now. I'm sure that they're out there. Matthew, do you get a lot of Howard's End?
No, I think if you've been on the telly just recently, then it sort of ramps up a bit, and people think usually people think they've been to school with you or something. It's like, hey, hi, and then there's sort of confusion, and you can't. But then it dribbles away, and I'm sort of wander around.
And no one bothers you, and it's great, except you're secretly a little sad.
Say what?
But you're secretly a little sad that no one's bothering you. But it's got to be big for Succession, right? I mean, people must have been sort of giving you the sad.
Yeah, that's enough of it. Yeah. I was in Manhattan when we were shooting the second series, and somebody came out and went, "Hey, Greg!" Greg! And all he said was, "Greg!" Greg! And then walked away. And that was it. Or they say, "Loved you in billions." Yeah.
I get a lot of, I've had someone chase me up the street shouting, "Gollum! Gollum!" at me. And I note, not Andy Serkis, Gollum.
Yeah. Well done on that big read as well. That must have been exhausting.
Thank you very much. Fortunately, I didn't have to actually do it, and I still get the praise.
And that's the other thing that happens, right? You're mistaken for other people. I mean, I guess it's funny. I never thought about the Andy Serkis thing, but now I see it. And Sean, for you, what is the thing you get most recognized
What do you think?
So I'm assuming it's Fleabag, but I don't know. You have a body of work that people have enjoyed.
The theatre, which it's all Fleabag and haircuts, but yeah.
It's good that you have memorable things at Aisling for you.
For me, it's a lot of my sex work, and I'm actually proud of that. I'm not ashamed of it at all, and I'm very proud of those videos. You mustn't
be. You mustn't be, because they're not going anywhere.
You're like one of my biggest subscribers.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you for your constant support.
That's all right.
I love Succession.
Especially in lockdown.
Money. And now that you can go back to that work, you could be a cam girl now.
Thank you very much. Yeah. And learning to do my own tech for it has been mind-blowing. So that's, I feel like this has been an opportunity to upskill this whole bit. No, I only get to, about this 100 bags of crisps by the medical community and the dental community.
Okay. But it's better than not being recognized at all, right?
Exactly. Can you imagine, Sarah? I've no idea what that must be like for you, but
I can tell you. It's actually great.
I could speak to that if that's helpful.
All right.
Nicer. I'd much prefer that, honestly.
Yeah.
Can I do a little shout out as a writer to two scenes in Quiz, which I think are so beautiful and weird and odd. One of them is with Jeff Norcott, who plays the Army General, and it's Matthew and Jeff singing the song from the Gilbert and Sullivan musical and being like, oh, he's getting it wrong, but the status. And that is just such a perfect two-hander of a scene where there's just someone basically who knows he's right but is afraid to sort of usurp his boss, and they're singing this silly song. And it made me, I didn't really take in that scene properly when I'd read the script, and to see it. And Jeff is an incredible comedy actor who has been in everything you've probably ever loved in so many things over the years in British comedy. And the other one was, like Sarah, Craig David is such a huge part of British culture. And he really is. And the scene where you guys are on your walk, and this is what I mean about them both playing it so seriously, and the same that they do in Succession and Fleabag, where they're like, and what did he do on Sunday? He chilled. Great. It was just, I still can't get over watching that scene and how just the seriousness of it and how brilliant. That's just a gorgeous, the writing, the leaving it on a two-shot of them walking up the hill together and this serious chat between the two of them. Just that for me was a spectacular balance of drama and comedy and a wink to the audience at the same time, which is such a hard thing to do.
Yeah, when he said he didn't know who Craig David was, I was just like, that was one of the times I'm like, no, they cheated. I flip-flopped back and forth where I was like, no, they cheated. No, they didn't. But how do you guys think you would actually do on Millionaire? Have any of you been on the celebrity version? Like, do you feel like you would go far?
Michael Sheen's actual career is being a quizzer, I feel. That's,
I've tried to work my way through all British quiz shows. I won Pointless, came very close to winning The Chase. Tipping point.
Didn't you say that it's quite scary once you're there?
The brain goes haywire. You question everything that you think you know, because suddenly, and when you're doing it there, and it's weird because we've performed in front of many people. Well, I have, it's quite hard to deal with that kind of studio situation. It really does weird things to you.
So you feel like you would not do well on Millionaire?
Oh, I'd do brilliantly. I would want to host it, though. I would want to host it, not play, because I love that. Oh my god! Yeah, I don't know. I think people are generally split into, at Christmas time when you play board games with your family. There are the people who really want to play the game, and there are ones who really want to be the game master. And I am a game master person, and being in control of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire with all the set and the lights and the sound effects. Well, I was in heaven. I loved it. So now I want to host a game show, not play on.
All right. Well, I hear there's money in that, and actually that makes me think. Everybody talked about how the set was so perfect for Matthew and Sean. Was it actually stressful sitting in that chair, even though you knew your lines? I mean,
yeah, it's terrifying, scary, really scary. There's no imagination required. You're sitting there with everything's there. You can't even see any of your own crew because you've got the kind of fake crew, and then our guys are behind, and it was really brilliant.
And Stephen wanted us, when we did the bits from the actual episode, to make it run with all the effects and all the sound, which is very unusual. Normally you wouldn't have the music and the effects, that's all put on later. But Stephen wanted it to actually happen live, which added to the tension and the drama, didn't it?
Yeah, it was so well done, and I'm so proud of all of you. Like, I know you, which I don't, but I'm still proud of you. So before I let you go, I'm going to ask you a question. Michael, you cannot participate. Who among you, actually, I'm just going to do this for you, because Matthew and Sean know what it's like to be on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. So here's your question. Are you ready?
Yes.
Which one of these real people has Michael Sheen not played? Is it David Frost, Tony Blair, Cliff Richard, or William Masters?
Who's the last one?
William Masters.
Wait now, who was C again?
Cliff Richard.
No, because I would pay great amounts of money to see Michael sing Our Father, the tune that went to #1 with him singing it. Great. Our Father, who art in heaven. That would be, I would pay a large sum of my fees to get that.
All right, is that your final answer? Final answer.
Yeah, I feel a bit sweaty, but yeah, I think it is Sarah, yeah.
Congratulations! You're right! have nothing to give you other than my gratitude to you and to all of you for being with us here today. Really, really appreciate it. I know all the ATX festers out there really appreciate it too. Hope everybody has watched. The last one is coming up soon. Thank you to James, Matthew, Sean, Michael, and Aisling for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
That's fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.